The anti-Brexit biased BBC are now claiming that people at the top have been stopping them from scrutinising Brexit. Really? Oh, I feel so sorry for people at the BBC. Apparently, they haven't really been able to hold Brexit to account. And Brexiteers, what have they been doing since 2016? That's exactly what they've been doing. They have been not just scrutinising Brexit, but they've been spreading fake news and propaganda against Britain and people of the country. Now they're saying, well, actually, we were struggling back then. We couldn't really talk about Brexit, especially during the Vote Leave campaign in 2016. We wanted to hold the Vote Leave bus to account, the £350 million that was on the bus. Apparently, the BBC couldn't talk about it. And afterwards, and now, really? Okay, so what's going on here? It all goes back to the Vote Leave campaign in the 2016 EU referendum. We've got certain people at the BBC saying, well, our bosses, who are political and who are right-wing and Brexiteer, they were telling us, even after the campaign, to not really bother talking about it because, it just creates more division and they feel oppressed. Oh, this is BBC's Rob Burley, one of the editors who used to work out for the Andrew Marr show and all the other shows on BBC. He's come out to say, well, I've been struggling. I probably need some help right now because it's been so hard not telling the truth. He said, Robbie Gibb told him that all that was done. It was time to move on. And he thought that anything that looked back at the referendum would look to voters like an attempt to rerun it. It risked giving the impression that the BBC couldn't accept the outcome and wanted to discredit the result. Well, that's just true. The more you talked about it, the more you tried to create division, then it did seem like you were trying to rerun the referendum. Doesn't mean that you were banned from talking about it, because you guys were not banned and you kept talking about it every single day since 2016 and today. So, defending his stance, Robbie Gibbs said that the inflated 350 million figure was not a lie at all, and it was just campaigning. This has already been debunked anyway, because it was not a lie. But the Ramonas continue with their own narrative because it's their truth that matters over facts. Anyway, so they claim that they were unable to talk about the bus. So what is this? You had it from 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, every single year. The BBC had this routine of doing a special segment on the EU referendum, the politics behind the 350 million figures. They started on the 25th of May 2016 during the campaign, and they never gave up. So when they say that they were oppressed, when they say that they were not allowed to talk about Brexit and the Brexit campaign, what are they talking about? In fact, when it comes to scrutinizing campaigns, when was the last time, whether it was in 2016 during the referendum or afterwards, did the BBC as an organisation really hold the Remain side to account? When the Remain side, George Osborne and David Cameron and those guys and Tony Blair came out to say, they used the government's platform to say that if you vote to leave the European Union, it will cost each UK family £4,300 a year. So what happened to this lie? What happened to actually holding it to account? They didn't do anything about this. When David Cameron was coming out to say, well, if you vote to leave the European Union, then we might even have the third world conflict. We will be eating lizards for a living. And none of that happened either. They said the whole world will abandon us. None of that happened. At the same time, the BBC were not really holding them to account. So, not really sure what they're moaning about at this point, because they've spent the last few years continuing to bash not just Brexit, but people of this country who voted to leave the European Union. If it was their choice, leave them alone. Now, they continue to come out to complain about all these nonsensical stuff, but we are here to also hold the BBC to account because they are still part of the establishment. Luckily, nobody watches it anymore. TV is dead because we are the media.